Hi there, this is yours truly, Clarice, and time check. It's past 5 o'clock p.m. So I think it's forgivable to have oily face and, wind down. When it comes to energy level, it's okay not to have that 10 o'clock pep talk because 5 o'clock Tuesday and with activities that I've been doing, oh my, uh, which is what I want to share with you guys. Here in the Philippines, we have what we call, the business processing period wherein your paper, your in dealing with a government agency, for example, in business processing, it's only allowed to remain untouched or unacted upon in one desk or one government agency for a period of time, and then afterwards we have a report so that we can follow it up, and so we will know what's the status of our application in order to comply with all the regulations. And they can be somewhat important, especially with the looming election 2022, that somehow some, like in the bidding, some of the bidding for procurement would be there will be a ban, and so some business processes will have to wait until the election season is done. So these are the things that guide us, the calendar dates that the government implements. Another uh, another important fact that I want to share is that in my case, there should not be any vacant post, like heirs and assigns, especially in dealing with intellectual properties, copyrights. Copyright owners, heirs, and assigns, those will be the phrases commonplace, industry practice, legal terminologies, as well as a good indication of whether there is good faith or whether there will be a continuation of a negotiation into uh, defining the T's and C's, the terms and conditions of a contract. And previously, before the copyrights and the IPs had become a power to reckon with, the industry players, we take it for granted of the intangible commodity that somehow we can copy and paste or post or make use of a little bit of their lyrics, a little bit of their rhythm, their jingle, like a line in the soundtrack. But now I want to call your attention to the most glaring example of, for better or for worse, we have to reckon with the reality of the IPs and copyright. The World Health Organization had bemoaned the lack of copyright use for the vaccines. In spite of the mortality rate, in spite of the death toll for each country, what had remained sacred and insurmountable had been the wall within the intellectual properties. It's somehow it's understandable because of the amount of investment, the R&D investments that these pharmaceuticals had put in place, continues to spend. It's actually actually a risk. What if the R&D didn't produce any worthy products after all the expenses, after all the professional fee and all the capitalization that had been injected periodically to this game of chance? And so uh, when they um, hit the quote unquote jackpot, they would guard this with their whole being, diba? And what had become the vanguard of the intellectual property is the sanctity or the rights of someone to persevere, knowing that at the end of all the investments, all the hard work, the disappointments, and if these people, these institutions, these private companies will have nothing to show for it, then that's it. It's money not spent well. And so if there will not be regulation to encourage perseverance, to accept the risk as a as a necessary evil, to accept that there might not be something to show for all the millions of R&D funds, diba? To make sure that innovation, to make sure that progress and development will continue. All the stakeholders, the players of the industry had injected authority and power and sanction and different ways and means to enforce these copyright, these IPs. I am saying this so that it's as, you know, like it or not, this is the reality. We can rage against it. We can fight and despair about it, but this is the reality. That even though the pandemic had taken its toll and that Mr. Tedros of the WHO, the World Health Organizations, had bemoaned asking the biggest pharmaceuticals to break the IPs, the copyright for their vaccines in order for them to be reproduced, to be produced in countries that are suffering at this time. There's still an ongoing debate. That's what that was being waged since the beginning of time. So, of course, we don't stop looking for ways to help out. But there is also that matter of reality wherein we must accept and go from there. Because what happens if these biggest pharmaceuticals won't break the copyright lordship over their creation, over their product, diba? So, okay, we negotiate, we appeal, we look for probably some sort of leverage, promissory notes, and we appeal to their humanity. But one thing for sure, we cannot use force to what had been in place since the beginning of treaties and global organizations. So just like I said, just like what I said, whether you like it or not, for better or for worse, there is that domain, there is that wall wherein we must stop taking them for granted. Because to do so, we do it at our own peril. That is how the thief and the reach of intellectual properties and copyright enforcers um, at this point in time, at this history. Diba? So with that kind of background, someone like me, a very tiny bit player, it is my own lookout to read and to know my place, to know my niche in that this is not the right place to wage a war or a crusade to change what are the givens in this industry of IPs. And those with whom I had introduced myself, I have proposed to work with, collaborated in. We should be guided by the industry regulations, and not to do so um, would be to be held accountable not just for the for one sovereign laws, but for the cross-border, for the global sanctions. And with that kind of background, which is sobering, right? Can you imagine how many millions have already died because of COVID-19? And yet, and the biggest pharmaceuticals are, I believe that um, they are doing their best to help out in ways that will not break that will not compromise their existence. Because if they lose it all, they will also be giving away their edge and their future innovation and future, the development and the progress. Because they must not stop. To be static in one industry would mean what a setback for the diseases and for the for the reach out for the the gains of science, diba? So we cannot we cannot give them sideswipe just because we are in panic mode, and we are in kind of desperate situation at this point in time. I am just using this illustration to describe the IPs and the copyright system at this point in time. And this is what I have been doing actually. Yan po yung mga papers I have. I got myself some kind of system to put a system to all the papers and the paperwork that TIBC had undertaken since its conception, since the time that I had it registered. So right now, somehow, diba, I thank the good Lord for giving me the wisdom that some of the pressures are alleviated because with the system that I have right now in the business, in my company, I have already done that and been there in the requirements so that our business activities can level up and that we can participate in more meaningful way. Because it is not just Clarissa talaga without next of kin, but it's a matter of the social obligation, the legal obligation, and the financial obligation that cannot have vacancy, that the law requires me to have assigns, to declare the heirs, and if they decide not to accept that position, that role, it should not remain vacant. And so that is what I am doing now, putting system in this in somehow uh, chaotic paperwork, which is actually good. So I got myself this this.
Hi, today is the 19th of September 2021. This is yours truly, Clarice, and I am spending Sunday this weekend in preparation for a critical rest of September. I've been asked to present my resume and my track record, and my follow-up question would be, in what aspect, in what area? Because look at these files. In order for me to furnish the requester of the appropriate and proper proof of my credentials, I should know what area of my skill set is needed. Is it in the management and management during peacetime, or on the crisis mode management, diba? So these have been the equipment that I've used as an editor, as a technical production talent and management. So all these, diba, are accumulations of the year of practicing my profession as a producer and editor. So it's really hands-on. I did not just rely on an extra person to be there and to know more than what I am, than what I have, like the instructions that I am giving them. So is it about the music? If it's about the music, then
So I have many hats. I am wearing in a week of work, in a full week where I should earn compensation and where credit should be given to alongside my coworkers, right? And and I have, I can't help but compare the perspective, the valuation of an ordinary person to R&D, research and development. Um, it's the risk factor in the R&Ds can be daunting, right? Take for instance, pinaka-simple na lang, like in exploring probably a career, diba? There is the surest and the most secured path. Like I can be an employee, a government employee, diba? Sabi nga, any private business, any big organization, those kind of companies we term as too big to fail, and yet they will never compare to the coffers of the government. Diba? The whole country will collapse, but the coffers of the government cannot be empty or um, cannot fall below, or else it's pandemonium, it's chaos, right? So this the safest employer would be the government. Yun yung conventional thinking. Like the old people, the generations before us would say, okay, in choosing career, you can either be a nurse or a teacher because they, you know, your security of tenure, but they are the most high employable, and with the salary that you can earn if you are a practicing employee or a teacher, but it's given and we need them. We so need them. But there are also those kind of people whom I believe it's also a calling, who have that heart and skill set to undertake research and development, because we don't just rely on the present time. We need the work to continue, you know, the science to um, enlarge the, what do you call it? Enlarge the territory of scientific finds, and not only in the scientific, in the science realm, but also in the industry practice, also in the way of doing business, also in communication with the technology that we have now, in reaching out to the farthest and to the least represented population, to the most disadvantaged sector of the population. So the research and development can come socially, politically, and so if we do not have people manning this industry and we're just stagnant, then diba, what is a sound economic policy or principle? Because napaka-finite ng resources. We must continue to innovate because it's one of the guarantees for the uh, for for the present time, di ba? Para hindi tayo masyado stressful and pressured, because knowing that somehow there will be competent, effective, and professionals who are also doing time, managing time, being in the future. Somehow magkakaroon sila ng sagot kung ano man yung nangyayari sa kasalukuyan, di ba? So we can have a night's rest knowing that. So with that, that is how I introduce my company as part of the research and the development policy making. And yours truly, having that public persona and much contested, it's now down to the last provisions, you know, the penal and the sanctions, because through the work that I did, I was able to comply with the requirements, which is what actually Yes. And with that, since bear na, diba? So, ako ngayon, one way to inspire me with the energy to go on and to look forward mga, through the music, diba? It's bear, it's Christmas. And yun yung somehow what I want to leave behind with this broadcast. We can either let the day pass by dragging our foot, one foot ahead of another foot, diba? Parang may dinadala tayo na sobrang bigat. Or we can do it with music in our hearts. And with that, thank you so much. I want to leave you behind with this video. It's a clip, it's a footage of what I've been doing and the things that allowed me to finally have the confidence to present the system that I have in place over my own small network, and for it to be a viable partner in one area of either in the business, either or in social dimension. So this is yours truly, Clarice. Thanks.